Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. Oh man, we've got just under 4 weeks till December 21st, Ramon. And the energy has been quite amazing the last couple of months as far as the way it's just been bouncing around. And I don't know, I seem to have hit some very intense pockets here. We had some last week for me was incredible as far as the going from one end of the spectrum to the other emotionally. The energy was just, and it wasn't just me that was being affected by this. I know quite a few people who seem to be affected quite a bit by something that was in the air, so to say. But
I've just been having wild dreams.
Yeah.
One of them might have been my past life, which we can ask our guest. Yeah, pretty wild thing.
Yeah, I think as we get closer, whether or not December 21st has anything to do with any trigger or anything happening, I think the consensus consciousness on the planet that there is something's going to happen on that date is helping to intensify, and it may create something. So I'm really optimistic about the kind of things that are going to be happening here in our near future. So you said you had some stuff you threw in the news this week, Ramon?
Yeah, I went through last night and checked some stuff. There was one I heard on Coast to Coast, and I had to look it up, and it's a Bigfoot DNA sequence in upcoming genetic studies, and they're trying to get peer review, but what their understanding is that Bigfoot is Homo sapien.
So where are they getting this DNA from that they're sequencing?
Just stuff that a lot of the people have found, like hair follicles and stuff like that. There was one I saw, I think on the Discovery Channel, where it has nothing to do with this news in particular, but they had set like a trap, and the Bigfoot stepped on this thing with nails, which is kind of mean, but they got some hairs off of that, and I've seen like people get some off branches. So and then we have cooking with a magnetic field. I don't know if that sounds too good, but I put it up there so people can look at it. So it's basically your stovetop will use a magnetic field to cook instead of gas or electric. Oh, that's
so. Is this a different energy source or
a regular energy source? But the bottom of your plate will have magnets giving off a magnetic field. But I'm assuming that's probably not good for you, only because it's probably using the negative magnetic field and not the better stuff, like our guest has figured out. And then the last one, which is probably the most interesting for me, not saying the Bigfoot one isn't, the giants of ancient America, 8 foot tall with double row teeth. And there's a newsletter all on that, and there's links onto it. And we also have older news that you can check out. Like me and Tom always says, do the research for yourself. Don't believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also on the main page there, if you guys will take a look, I was on UFO AM with John Kelly last week.
Actually, I took you down.
Oh,
If
you
want to
did?
find, yeah. Well, you're still up. If you go to the archive page, and then it'll scroll down and it'll say Archive 2012, Archive 2011, video interviews, Tom and Ramon's videos, and at the end you'll see Tom and Ramon on other radio shows.
Oh.
So I put you there, Tom. So you
Okay.
know.
Okay. Well, I just so people know, I talked about a couple of different sightings that I had with him, and it was actually a pretty good show. So I had fun with him.
Yeah, it seemed like you did.
Yeah.
Also, I posted up I'm always posting up his new, the new ones that he puts up there, so you can click on that. And he does all the UFO news. He does it at 7 a.m. Pacific time, so you can check that out, which is really amazing because, like Tom said before, no one else does that.
Right. Also, something new for Ramon and I, we are going to be starting on Truth Frequency Radio on Tuesday nights at 5 to 7. We're going to be adding in a couple more shows each month. So if you want to check out some more shows, I think we're going to have Crystal Clark on December 4th is going to join us over there. And we'll have to deal with commercials and all that stuff, but, well, it should be fun.
Yeah, and which means we'll still have our regular Sunday, so when you come on Sunday, you'll still have a new show, and then Tuesday you can come listen to us again live and call in, and also we'll have Spencer on the 18th.
Yeah, that should be a good show.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, what else, Tom?
YouTube, Emo, the100thmonkeyradio.com.
Yeah.
Okay, tonight we have somebody that's been in this field for quite a while and has actually had an impact on both Ramon and my growth in this area as far as expanding our mind and stimulating the thought process. David Sereda's first aspiration in life was to become an astronaut. In 1968, David and a friend witnessed a UFO along with hundreds of other witnesses. After this experience, David grew up a UFO enthusiast, never living in doubt of the phenomena that has swept the world since the Roswell incidents in 1947. His interest in space, religion, philosophy, astronomy, and science led him on his career in related fields. He has worked deeply in high technology, on environmental and humanitarian issues, and as a professional photographer for over 20 years. He's studied world religion, science, physics, and paranormal psychology for over 25 years. Mr. David Sereda, we are very honored and grateful for you to come on the 100th Monkey Radio.
Tom and Ramon, thank you for having me on your show. I'm looking at your guys' bios right now on your site.
We
were born...
Don't hold that against us.
Tom, you and I were born in 1961. I can see that.
Oh, nice.
So you guys are both 22?
Yeah, 29. Oh, jeez.
Actually, David, you look amazing for 50. I don't even believe it.
That would be 51.
Yeah, I'm 51. The magic number, 51, is the magic number for a lot of the research I've done on the Great Pyramid. And I eat organic food, and I don't get much sleep anymore, so my eyes can look pretty tired in some of my photos because I have a daughter who's only 2 years old. So, and she's one of these new super children that doesn't have naps. Like, she has a couple of naps a week. She gets up at 6 in the morning, and she goes all long until about 8:30 at night. So,
yeah.
And I just chase her around, and she's, one of my... when she was an infant, I was on the radio with George Norrie, and we have one of those infrared baby monitors, and I had the little portable TV tube, thing that you can look at my wife and baby sleeping. And while they were sleeping, this orb of light just floats right out of my daughter's body and goes, floating up through the ceiling.
Wow.
And, I went through a period between... In the year 1994, I've been meditating every day for over 30 years now, but in 1994, I was living I was in a pretty austere situation where I had to live in a tent on my father's ranch, which was under construction, and I ran out of money and had nowhere to go. And during a rainstorm one night in October '94, my tent was flooded, and I left my body. And my practice is mainly Buddhist. I mean, I'm doing Buddhist meditation mainly. I do a lot of yoga and a lot of different meditation techniques. And I leave my body, and when I left my body, all the plants were glowing. There was this really strong electrical surge the moment I left. I floated above the oak trees, pouring rain, and there was a giant crucifix floating near the oak trees, and with a baptismal font beneath it, and I fell into this holy water and was cleansed, went above the rain clouds, and within minutes, these little atoms of light, just billions of them, came rushing together to form the body of Christ in front of me, blazing like 1,000 suns. And there was so much ecstasy and so much love, so much power, beauty, wisdom, grace, and qualities unnameable coming from him. And I just collapsed in spirit. I was unable to look directly at him. He began teaching me quantum physics and all kinds of things. But the point I want to make is that when I came back from that experience, I could see the dead, the ghosts, as clear as people see each other. With my eyes open, not like a mental imagery like some psychic, experience. I mean, it was the freakiest thing. Within 2 days, suddenly I'm seeing, dead people's spirits, extraterrestrial balls of light telling me what star system they're from. And I had moved from my tent on the ground, and I built a yurt on a big, wooden deck on my dad's 3-acre ranch in Topanga, California. And these experiences just kept happening and happening. And at that time, I was not a public, speaker, a public person. I was in the middle of doing this investigation into the NASA, UFO phenomena captured on space shuttle video cameras. And there's an interesting point there, is because these balls of light that have been seen in crop circles and photographed and videotaping crop circles that have showed up on space shuttle video cameras, particularly the cameras that are black and white that I verified, without a doubt, those cameras are modified CCD cameras that can see into the invisible ultraviolet near and far spectrum. And I believe those are the same balls of light. Well, I've never said this on any radio show before, but one night in my yurt, so my yurt is like, 10-foot ceilings. It's 16 feet by 12 feet. It's really nice inside. It's just like a regular room. And I actually enjoyed living like that and meditating every day. And one night I wake up, I feel this electrical surge in my body. I bolt out of my sleep. And there's a fuchsia-colored ball, a purple lavender ball, about, 3 times as big as basketballs, and a white one. And they're floating right in front of me with my eyes open. And they say, "We're Arcturians." And I'm like, what is an Arcturian? I didn't know there was a star system called Arcturus. And they started making some jokes that I didn't think were funny, because, it's just not my sense of humor. And I said, okay, I'm not really that comfortable with you guys. But they're just balls. They're not humanoid. And I lie down, go back to sleep, and I go shooting out of my body. And I'm reading in Ramon's bio here that when he was a little kid, he had out-of-body experiences. And so you know what it's like when you leave. There is, like what the Tibetans describe, when you leave the body, there are new added sensations, incredible. You perceive and feel everything so deeply in the out-of-body state. It's not just like a hologram where you're watching a movie. You're really feeling stuff. And I floated and I chased these balls of light up into the sky, and they went into these massive, probably 150-mile long motherships made of light. Not non-physical, not metallic. And so I got, the next day, I'm calling everybody I know. Does anybody know Arcturians? Have you ever heard of them? No. No one in the New Age movement had heard of it. And then I finally found a book. About a month later, a friend of mine told me about a book called We the Arcturians by Norma Molinovich, who channeled them, who didn't see them. And she described their signature colors as the white, the fuchsia, and the purple. And I went, oh my God, like that is so consistent. That's exactly what I saw. They never came back again. I never saw them again. But there were people saying that in the crop circle movement that Arcturians were among the numerous beings that were interdimensionally appearing in the fields of England and other places. So when you have a mystical experience, one of the ways, to find out if you're really hallucinating and you're not really having an experience, but you're having some kind of schizophrenic experience, then you have to do your research. You got to look, like I did. I look at the ball floating above my daughter on the night vision camera in the baby monitor, and I see the same data there. I see the round balls of light in the crop circle videos. I see the round balls of light that are not that big, in the NASA UFO videos. And I experienced them myself, and I've experienced them about 3 or 4 times. But the other times I experienced them, they didn't identify their star system. The other times they were just, making appearances to me. So, and then there's a picture of you, Tom, there with the...
with the orb?
With the orb near your head. And what's interesting about that is, one night I woke up in Sedona when my wife and I first moved here, and we were planning our baby's body, our baby's birth, conception, and I wake up and I see these 3. They were about basketball size, about the one that's floating above your head there, and they were kind of a burnt orange and burnt turquoise, and they were zipping around like bees, the way bees move, around my wife's head. And my wife didn't tell me, but she was meditating and asking the extraterrestrials questions, and I had just woken up because I went to bed earlier than her, and there it was happening. I could see it with my eyes. At the same time, a very good scientist named Gary Schwartz, who's a Harvard psychiatrist who teaches psychiatry and psychology at the University of Arizona, Tucson, he was approached by the military because Mitsubishi had built a super infrared camera, video camera, not still camera, that the military they were getting these orbs showing up on the motion video sensor camera, and they didn't understand it. So they asked Gary to help them. And what's amazing is Gary Schwartz tells me, like months later, the same date that my experience happened with the orbs around my wife's head, they were doing an experiment with the camera, and they literally filmed these balls of light around a woman's head who was talking to extraterrestrials psychically.
Wow.
And they were filming her in the dark with this incredible camera. And I got to see that photography. It's never been released to the public. To this day, I don't believe it's anywhere. So you have, absolute confirmation of a phenomena that involves star beings, from other star systems, both with some good scientific data and experiential data. And I like the science because it can help, like I said in the beginning, prove that you're not schizophrenic, you're not having a breakdown, this isn't a hallucination. You can see this stuff on cameras now. And sometimes orbs that show up in people's cameras are just reflections off of moisture droplets in the air, and sometimes they're not.
Right.
From the flash. And sometimes they're really, I've got them clearly using film with a $5,000 camera, film camera, not digital. So they're not digital artifacts. And I've got them in broad daylight too. So with, not pointing the camera into the sun. So there you go. I mean, and that's how I've always approached research. When you're researching paranormal, you look at what methods of detection do you have. You have sound in the audible and the inaudible spectrum. You have light in the visible and the invisible spectrum. And you have, electromagnetic sensors, and you have super sensitive electromagnetic sensors out there, and different types of meters that can measure changes in the energy field around, where you're looking, for sudden changes.
So you mentioned you had some spontaneous out of body stuff. Are you able to do the conscious intentional out of body projections now?
Well, what I'm doing now is very, very advanced. I mean, I have been meditating for 33 years and doing a lot of breath work and, insight meditation and deep relaxation stuff. But what I'm doing now is, because the 14 years that I saw ghosts, regular ghosts, I saw so many beings. I saw Princess Diana the very day after she died. She was in my yurt in Topanga for a half an hour. She would not leave. No, it was over an hour, actually. She was just staying there, telling me she couldn't believe they killed her. And what I decided was there were so many random appearances of different beings. I mean, hundreds of them. I've seen hundreds of ghosts, full three-dimensionally. I decided I want a more directed experience. And I started doing a lot of research into old solid-state physics, which means the study of crystals and how they're used in transistors and radios and crystal oscillators. And I developed a technology to program crystals, actually programming them with harmonics of targets. And sometimes the harmonic is just a vibration that makes you feel better, or it deepens your meditation.
Mm-hmm.
All of our 7 chakras, or 7 energy centers in the body, correspond to glandular systems. The base of the spine is the male prostate, and the base of the reservoir of Kundalini. And when you go to your 3rd chakra, the yellow one, it's at your adrenals. And all of your glands that correspond to chakras require certain minerals and certain crystal content, like silica and phosphorus and things like that your body needs, and even germanium, which is in garlic and certain mushrooms. Germanium is the same type of crystals they used in the first transistors that were built for the very, very first transistor radios in the 1940s by 3 brilliant physicists, John Bardeen, Will Bratton, and William Shockley. And when they invented that transistor, this is very important. You'll see why in a minute, to expand consciousness and accelerate the ability to have experiences. What they discovered is that crystals had free electrons on the surface that you could use to amplify signals. Like the first radios, when Tesla invents radio, U.S. Supreme Court rules 1943, June 21st, that Tesla, Solarov, Lodge, and Stone were the fathers of radio, and that Marconi actually stole it from them, and that was what the lawsuit was about. But Tesla's radios didn't broadcast very far without a cable, and when you're talking about actually wireless transmission, through the airwaves and the ether, the broadcasts were not very good with clarity over distance. So there was the idea of Will Shockley that because crystals had electrons, which are the carriers of the electric force, floating on the surface of crystals, they could be used as amplifiers. It took the 3 scientists a long time to really figure out how to get it to work, but they basically needed a conductor, which is gold or silver or any type of good metal, to touch the crystal to act as a conduit to get the electrons to move out of the crystal. And further, they found that crystals had these vortexes in them which nobody has really properly understood ever, they're called semiconductor holes today, and that's a huge subject about how powerful crystals are at opening portals. But nevertheless, they got it to work. The first transistor worked in 1947. changed the world. Suddenly you could amplify weak radio signals and hear the baseball game and what the president was saying on the radio over very large distances. And, you know, the first transistor radios only had a few transistors in them. Now, Intel chip in your computer has almost 3 billion tiny quartz transistors inside of a single chip. Now, what's happening now is you're understanding the importance of crystal in amplifying signals. And when you think of the body electric, you know, the human body, you can measure the millivolts, which is the thousandths of the volt scale, using the galvanic skin response, just putting a common voltmeter on your fingertips, the red and the black probe. And you can see, you know, because I've tested over 1,000 people at shows, that people have pretty low voltage. And that's because they also, most people don't have anywhere near the same voltage. Depending on diet, do you get enough crystal in your diet? Do you get enough gold and silver? Probably not. You know, we've robbed all the streams of gold and silver in America, so your water's pretty much void of that. And a lot of the yogis who lived in the Himalayas and caves and were meditating in the caves, it was easier for them to have mystical experiences drinking water that's loaded with minerals, you know, and crystal content, silica, you know, which is quartz. So they, over time, living in those type of environments, you're building up your liquid crystals, you know, semiconductor body, and doing yoga and meditation. So very, very powerful.
Right.
So we developed these pendants, and we found that you could program them harmonically with different, you know, you could even put the Pleiades star system vibration, Sirius, the NASA sound of the sun vibration, the frequency of any planet, which I've mathematically identified all of this, into the crystal. And what happens is, because your body's electric, when you touch it, especially the silver ones, the silver and crystal ones we have at lightstreamtechnologies.com, you can see a huge change in person's body voltage. And to be sure, when we saw the voltage change, that it wasn't some type of local effect just on the fingertips alone, we used a very advanced aura camera. And you could see even people at trade shows going down to the aura camera booth and putting a pendant on and doing before and after photos, and there's a huge improvement in the aura. With advanced aura cameras like the GDV, you could see a massive improvement in the aura, all because of harmonically treated crystal. Well, it's the same for people who think this is a trick and don't believe it. Then try to make your radio or your laptop work without crystal. It won't work. You need crystal.
Real quick question along that. How did you determine what frequencies, say the frequency of the planets, how did you determine what frequencies were used to program?
NASA developed really good radio telemetry, which is bouncing radio waves from satellites off of the planet. And you can determine the radius of the planet, which is the distance from the core center to the skin. Extremely accurate measurements in metric. Metric is more accurate than standard,
right?
You know, feet and inches. And once you have the radius, you can calculate the frequency. And the way you do it is you take the radius times 2 to get your diameter of your sphere, and then you times it by pi to get the distance around the sphere. And because electromagnetic waves, see, this is a really tricky thing. In a Tesla coil, when you're running electricity into the coil, the copper wire, the electrons move, you know, up to 2/3 the speed of light, or the speed of electromagnetism. But the electromagnetic signal that are generating floating just above the surface of the wire is traveling at the speed of light in all directions, or the speed of electromagnetism, same thing. So to get the frequency of a planet, you see, planets, when sunlight hits the planet or lightning strikes hit the planet, they're activating the motion of electrons in the material, which means everything from water to rock to, you know, crystal to conductive minerals. Everything the planet's made out of, electrons are moving. But they're not moving anywhere near the speed of light, because those electrical impulses are pretty weak. but the signal they generate just at the surface is the speed of light. Which means once you know the circumference of a planet or a star, you divide that circumference into the speed of light. But what's amazing, what I discovered, is because the circumference at the equator is different than the poles, you generate two base frequencies for each planet because they're slightly different. And so you get a binaural kind of beat frequency for Earth. The numbers I got using this math is slightly different than what Tesla and Schumann discovered, and that's because when they're measuring the very long wavelength around the planet at Colorado, where Tesla took measurements, he's higher up from the equator, so the circumference, there is slightly smaller than it is at the equator. So his number is slightly different than mine. But another problem is the timing devices in the sensors. It depends what kind of math base they're using, because you get a slightly different number with metric than you get with standard.
Right.
And metric is more accurate. So I got the two frequencies of Earth and all the 9 planets based on NASA's radius data.
Interesting.
And
so what about...
When you see now this gets really interesting here, because go back to your body's a liquid crystal with solid state crystal in your glands. You have an electric energy field around the body. You can measure electrical current in the microamp area on the fingertips, although most people don't have any microamps, but we do have voltage, which is different. And that means we have electrical current, which is we run positive and negative ions, which are charged particles, or basically an atom with a positive or negative net charge on it.
Right.
Whereas most atoms are just net zero. And they're running through your nerves, and you've got this field of energy. Now, the speed of the human aura has been measured by a German physicist, good physicist. So, all those other scientists out there can, basically just, whack out because you don't know anything. But Fritz Albert Popp measured the speed of biophotons, which are particles of light emitting from the DNA of all living things, including plants and humans and animals and mammals, all of it. And the speed is way faster than light speed. It's superluminal. What's interesting about this is that your cell phone signal is only the speed of light. Your radio signal is only the speed of light, which is, 300,000 kilometers per second, just a tad under that. And if you want to communicate with another star system, you're out of luck, because radio waves are just too darn slow. But your body has a component in it that can send faster than light signals, but it doesn't know where to send it. Now, what's really interesting about this is when we dream and we go into... This is really trippy. I used to see, in the 14 years that I saw ghosts all the time. It was a constant state that I lived in, daytime and nighttime. And when my neighbors, and I lived in an apartment building in Vancouver, Canada, and I would see my neighbors floating through the walls at night in these really electric, almost like neon colors. They're not exactly neon. And their astral bodies look so different than their physical bodies. But I would look at them, and they're just drifting, and their eyes are closed and floating on their backs and their front.
Oh, so you're saying people, you're live people who are having out of body experiences, or
every night when we dream, we go several feet from our own body.
Right.
What makes a person a conscious out of body traveler versus an unconscious one doesn't know how to meditate, so they're engrossed in their own thought processes and radical thinking. So when you look at that astral body, the eyes are closed, and you go, oh yeah, their eyes are closed. And I can see them that clearly. I can see every stitch of every fabric and of their clothing they're wearing in the astral, imagery.
Wow, that must have been a trip. 14
It was really a trip, just lying there awake and watching them float around.
Damn.
And not one of them had their eyes open.
Damn.
But what's interesting is the brain. We had a brainwave mapper, a professional brainwave mapper, and who's a distributor of my pendants and our transmitters, come from Canada, and he came and he was measuring my brain waves. And my brain waves were going off the chart on the theta and the deltas, like hitting the end of the meter while I was meditating. And he said it's not unusual to see somebody in theta when they're sleeping, but it is unusual when they're awake. And I could control my deltas by relaxing my heart muscle. And these huge deltas, like going right to the, just boom, 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 like going right to the end of the meter. And he said, well, he goes, do you have any head trauma? Because this is extremely unusual unless you have, you know, deltas you see in children, but you don't really see them in adults that big. And deltas can physically move things, telekinesis. They're really strong waves. And I don't know how far my deltas were going because his meter only went to a certain limit. But this is what's interesting. Theta, which is where most of us dream, it's where rapid eye movement occurs, is about, 8 hertz and 8 waves per second and under. The planet Earth is in theta. Its frequency is roughly 7.5 to 7.4 hertz. So when you dream, your brain is synchronized with Earth's theta, which is really incredible because most of us don't get further than a few feet to maybe 100 feet from our bodies when we're dreaming because you don't have enough energy. And you're trapped in the web of the Earth or the Gaia frequency. So when you put the frequency of Jupiter, for example, in your body, which is a really low delta, it's a really low delta number. I did it, and that first time I did it, that night, I was out of my body on Jupiter, and there were these 16-foot tall human gods and goddesses wearing breastplates, the most beautiful purplish metal, with lightning bolts flashing between them, and they looked down at my transmitting device that I use to transmit these frequencies into my room at night before we go to sleep, and they said that device is your ticket to the stars, on the astral plane, and that you can build bigger ones to go further. Wow. And they were flashing lightning bolts. I mean, I'm this little human, and you were talking about 8-foot tall humans, in the news being reported in skeletons. Well, then they looked at me and they said, he will become as one of us. And I went, wow. I said, I can't believe this is happening. Now, when I woke up and came to, of course, you look, who was the god Jupiter for the ancient Italians, but the same as Zeus, the god of thunder and lightning, the god who possessed this incredible weapon that allowed him to use super lightning bolts to destroy his opponents. And there I was experiencing that. Very consistent. And Dante Alighieri, who visited Jupiter out of body, the great, Catholic mystic, who was banished from Florence, Italy, because he reported seeing many of the popes in hell in his astral journeys. He described the beings on Jupiter as rulers, what were known as the just rulers, these super powerful beings. So there's a consistency. Once again, you have an experience, you look, you think, is there anything consistent about this, or is it random?
Right.
And then I did Saturn. I did the frequencies of Saturn on my body before sleep. And the transmitter I'm using at lightstreamtechnologies.com is not your Rife-type device. Those things don't have anywhere near the size of the energy field you need to really affect the astral body. So each of our planets are in different levels of brainwave states that are indicative of known mapped brainwaves that go from thetas to deltas, which are, I think, below 4 waves a second. And what I'm saying is if you vibrate your astral body with that frequency of that planet, you go there so fast, or even a part of a digital copy of you goes there. Just like you can have millions of digital copies of a TV broadcast going out on countless trillions of photons, everyone can pick up the same signal from the same photon stream of a football game, right? Like they're all copies of the same game. So a copy of you goes to Jupiter or Saturn. When I did Saturn, that night, not the next night, not a week later, I meet Tesla. And he's got a young woman with him who is etching angel carvings into plates of a very exotic metal that's kind of like platinum. And she says, I want you to meet my father, Tesla. And I look at him, and Tesla is so young looking. And Tesla reaches into my astral head, and he adjusts something. And I think he actually turned off the astral body. And he says, now go look in the mirror and see who you really are. This just happened like a month ago or so.
Wow.
I posted on Facebook. I go in the mirror, and I was a little scared because I was like, what did you do to me? And who am I really? And I look in the mirror, and this light just starts glowing from within my head. And then it just starts expanding, and I start getting really high. And then this tear in my chest, it was like the Matrix. This blinding white light just rips out of my chest. And I can feel star systems inside the light. I can feel a Christ vibration in the light from what Jesus did to me. And I just start exploding out into the universe. My aura just keeps expanding into the stars. And I was in this expansion bliss state for about an hour straight. Like the whole dream was just me expanding into the cosmos. I couldn't see Tesla anymore. I couldn't see the young lady. And I went, oh my God. I mean, I've been meditating for 30 years, and I know how to go into real bliss states now, but I can't. Before I developed this harmonic technology, I couldn't have as many out-of-body experiences as I'm having now. Like, how the heck is this happening? So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying the overlay of the radio on the physical body and a tuner. What you're doing is you're taking this stuff and you're using it as a tuner to tune your body to be able to pick up these other stations, quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean that's a great analogy because I've always wanted to be an astronaut. I did a lot of skydiving when I was younger, and I sent you a link to my skydiving video.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I saw that.
Having a lot of fun out there. I got over my fear of heights, which that really helps me on the astral plane too, just to get over the fear of heights. But, nothing compares to this stuff. I mean, I now realize that some of the UFOs we're seeing, and remember the Arcturian experience I had with these 100-mile wide, 150-mile long light ships, that they literally may be holograms that have traveled faster than the speed of light from that star system, so that beings there can visit us, but they haven't actually physically left their planet. They figured out the same thing I figured out, but on a larger scale.
Right.
And so some of the UFOs we have are holograms. And some of the proof of that might be, like, for example, the famous Battle of 42 over Los Angeles. I mean, this is a classic story of UFOs that appeared over the south of Redondo Beach area. 1942, we thought it was, the Japanese, and World War II hadn't even totally started yet, I don't think, or it did. And we fired 1,800 rounds at these supposed UFOs, but the munitions were going right through them. Like, they just couldn't knock them out of the sky. They weren't even physical. They were light ships. And it seemed, and so there's a possibility. I mean, I don't know this for sure in cases like that, because some of these craft can go from physical to non-physical and back and forth. But it is possible now, if you know the harmonics of your target destination. So let's say, and I did this, I figured out the math on the frequencies of 5 of the Palladian stars. And those frequencies together of those 5 stars are so unique and proprietary that, like a musical song is unique from one another, there's no song anywhere in the cosmos identical to the frequencies of all of the Palladian stars. When you put that harmonic into your body through my harmonic transmitter, a copy of your digital self says, I already send faster than light signals because we know Fritz Albert Pop proved that biophotons in plants and humans go faster than light. Then there's only one place to send the biophotons. It's the Pleiades, because that's the only place that the quantum universe knows that vibration exists. Because the Pleiades are putting that vibration into the universe at the quantum level, and you know, the interspace medium level, and that has to be where it goes. And I built a transmitter 3 years ago that sent. I figured this out 3 years ago, and when I did it the first time, we sent my wife Crystal singing the Frank Sinatra song "Fly Me to the Moon" through the transmitter while the Pleiades were rising in the east. 400 and some odd year old light that we're looking at. We're not looking at the real Pleiades. We're looking at them as they were over 400 years ago. But nevertheless, we did it, and in the middle of the night, and this is interesting because I wasn't seeing ghosts at this point 3 years ago. I saw so few ghosts anymore. Hardly any were appearing in this new house we lived in, and my daughter, before she was born, was the last ghost I ever saw. But this is my data. I'm not having these experiences anymore. It lasted about 14 years, seeing the ghost thing. So I hear a voice, clear voice, a male voice, very compassionate, say, "Congratulations, we received your message. Now what do you want to ask us?" And I just leaped out of bed. I heard that. It wasn't my head talking to itself, when you talk to yourself.
Right.
I wasn't intuiting it. It was an audible locution. And I jumped out of bed and woke my wife up and told her what had happened. And the next day, I wrote down all kinds of questions that I had for the Pleiadians, and we recorded them in Pro Tools and sent them out through the transmitter, and holy cow. I mean, it's the answers every time we did this were staggering. And they got to the point where the last couple of times we asked them to holographically appear in our house, and they did, and they were 8 feet tall.
Wow.
Humanoids, just like you guys were talking about in the news. What was that story, Ramon, that you were talking about?
Oh, that was like in the ancient Americas. A lot of, for example, a lot of Native American tribes had described going to war with these beings, with these humans that had double row teeth, and it's different from what you're describing, but same height. But they were like, I guess, another species of humans.
Right.
Wow.
So, David, you have this question answers with the Pleiadians documented somewhere?
Well, what I did is every time I had an experience, I recorded my questions that I sent out through the transmitter in Pro Tools, and then when the experiences came in, I recorded them all. So I put it on a CD that people can get at voiceentertainment.net. They can just go to that website where my films are, and they can get it there. Because it's very long and detailed, and one of the reasons, of course, just like authors like to support their research by writing books, I don't like to talk about it in hindsight because we only do those transmissions about twice a year, so we know what our normal background experiences are, my wife and I. The last time we did it, we do it on my birthday, which is August 21st, and we do it sometime again in the winter. But the last time we did it, when I asked them to appear in our house again, the first time my wife ever has seen something with her eyes open, we both leaped out of bed at the exact second. We both jumped up from our sleep, and I had not seen them with my eyes open. I saw them with my eyes closed, but my eyes were closed. I was a few feet out of my body, and there were two humanoids, but all light, like a golden yellow light and a nice light blue colored light. There were 3 of them. But when I jumped out of bed, they weren't there because I couldn't see them anymore open. But there's my wife, and she's looking, and I see her eyes, and I'm like, oh my God, what is Crystal seeing? And she's really engrossed in it. And she tells me what she sees. She sees a stick man getting on a bicycle and riding a bike holographically right in front of her.
Huh.
And what's interesting about that is she had always said, if I ever see a ghost like you see ghosts, because she sees me leap out of bed and sometimes put my hands through them and everything, she goes, she would flip out. She'd be too scared. So they showed her something childlike and safe.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Incredible.
That's funny.
And
No, go ahead,
incredible.
Dave.
The same second. So this is, scientifically, you'd say, what are the odds of the two people hallucinating in the same moment at the same time? They call it mass hallucinations, which I think is a hilarious, explanation for
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
paranormal.
It's funny because when you said that, it reminds me of my wife. My wife is the same way. It's like I've seen ghosts and I've seen a lot of weird stuff.
Oh, you have? You've seen them?
Yeah. The last time I didn't see them as often as you did, but last time I saw one, I went to a bar with my wife and her friend, and I walk into the bar. I'm sitting down and we're having a couple of drinks, and there's an older gentleman next to me. He's having a drink, and then I see this elderly man walk in, and he had glasses, and he was like balding a little bit, hair back, and I'm seeing it from the corner of my eye, and I'm looking at the TV, and I turn to look at him, there's nobody there. And I was like, wow. And I turned to my wife and I said, I just saw a ghost, and she was like, shut up.
Yeah. I've got a good third eye vision. I see really well with my eyes closed. As far as open eye stuff, it's the corner of the eye and the flashes. But I haven't had any real physical manifestations to really speak of yet.
Yeah, my daughter, at not even 2 years old, she was bonding with her great-grandmother before she was, as she was dying, and even before she died. So she would sit on the hospital bed, and it was so loving to her. And looking at her decrepit state and form, it was amazing that how children are, that they don't look at that and get grossed out by it. But
right.
She was so bonded with her, and we didn't tell her grandmother passed away last August. And one day, 3 days after the death, my daughter's playing in the living room, and she doesn't even have a lot of long sentences. She doesn't have long sentences. She has short 4-word sentences now, and she's 2. She goes, look, and she points up at the ceiling, and she runs into my arms. She goes, it's Grandma, and she says her last name. And I went, oh my gosh, she can see her, and she's totally bewildered and laughing, and this went on for days. And then one day my daughter is in the living room playing, and then she goes, funny man, and she points out towards the cabana by the pool. And so we went outside looking, and I'm getting goosebumps, who is funny man? I don't think I like this anymore because I can't see him anymore. And then one day I was taking her through some books and trying to see if funny man is a feathered Native American spirit or something, wearing the old dancing dresses. And no, that didn't get her attention. And my wife was flipping through a book with her of angels, and she looked at Archangel Raphael, and she pointed at it and said, funny man. And, this is interesting because when, children, not all children see this stuff. There are a lot of children that see lights and flashes and colored balls and auras, but there's not even a lot of that, especially with all the vaccinations kids are getting now. My daughter was not vaccinated. But anyway, what ended up happening later is her great-grandmother came by with Funny Man one day, and we felt even better and more secure because they were both there at the same time. And she'll describe the color of dress she's wearing, everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, if something isn't proof that we live on after death, then your own daughter doing this with no input, we don't give her ideas. We don't, talk to her about these things. We don't encourage it. It's just, she just reports it, and she says it with so much excitement. she's pointing up at the ceiling, you know.
Yeah. In one of my out-of-body experiences, I had a very interesting one. I'm able to do the conscious intentional stuff, so, you know, the projection thing. I went out without an intended target. And it took, well, I go out with the intention of best and highest good. Show me what I need to know. And I ended up back in 1961, early 1961, and I saw a man. I ended up in the body of this guy, looking at my mother when she's 17 years old, and knowing that I am in the body of my father.
Wow.
And this was the day that my father died. And he actually, the last thing he said to her, he gave her a kiss and said, "I love you," and then he went up and jumped off a cliff into the water and hit rocks under the water. But the thing that I needed to see about this was that, and I'd known about this guy, whose name happened to be Tom also. I'd known about this guy and my mom dating him, but I'd always been told that this guy that she'd married directly after that was my father. And it turns out that that is not actually my father.
Wow.
So, and I found this out through an out-of-body experience and got confirmation. So,
see, that's exactly what I'm saying for people out there. When you have an experience, check it, and you may find out that it's giving you more accurate data than you would believe science could even provide you.
Right.
And when you start getting information like that, I mean, holy cow, what a revelation.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you feel what it felt like to be your dad in that moment?
You know, I felt like that was me. That was a past life of my own. So it's like I'm my own father.
Oh, you are your own father.
Yeah, I felt as if I'd lived that whole life while I was in that body.
Oh, wow.
I felt like I was going back to my last past life.
So you reincarnated as your own son.
As my own son, right.
Oh, my God. That's
what a trip, huh?
Oh, my God. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it took me a while to wrap my head around that one.
Wow.
It's funny because I had something similar a couple of days ago, but I'm not my own father, but just I was like this man, and I'm guessing either Indian or Arab by the way people were dressed, and there was like a pause in time, and then I can hear my guide saying, "Okay, Ramon needs to be born now, and it's time to move on," and I was like, "Okay, that's a good idea." And I guess in that life, I wasn't like the nicest of guy, because these cops that were dressed, they had like turbans on, reddish turbans, and they were trying to grab me, and I'm fighting two of them, and one of them was pressing something up against my leg where I lost leg power, and I couldn't, because I was stronger than both of them, and they couldn't handle me. But they were able to take me down, and I'm guessing it was a stab wound, but it felt like pain. But that was weird, because I was wondering if that's the reason why I had that dream, was because Tom had told me about his out-of-body experience. It was like a year ago, Tom?
Yeah, it was about a year ago that I had that, yeah.
Yeah, that's not that long ago. That's you were 50 years old. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your point of view.
Hey, Ramon.
Yeah.
Hold on to that. We're actually at the top of the hour. That really fast.
Yeah. David, tell us where we can find your movies, your pendants, the light wand.
Yeah, you can get the light wand, the transmitter, with the harmonic codes of the planets and star systems and other amazing vibrational energies at, just write me, David, Sereda, at hotmail.com, and I'll send you a catalog, a PDF catalog where you can buy them. And then my films are at voiceentertainment.net, and my pendants and the wand are in this catalog you download at lightstreamtechnologies.com. That's lightstreamtechnologies.com. You can download the ebook on the pendants there, and the wand is also inside of there, and you can learn more about it there.
And we have all those links on your the page for this show too. So
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we want to thank everybody for joining us. If you're not a member, please become a member. We've made it as inexpensive as possible for the members. And, you know, when you support us, you help us keep the lights on and, you know, be able to bring great guests like the ones we have tonight.
Exactly. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
And we'll see you guys in the second hour.
Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us to the leaders that pass away. Put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Fall straight from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi, live for peace, aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King, aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ, life for the moment in need. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's up to me.
My soul yearns for peace in a world that's flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score and maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting a seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda killing my creed. Oh, what don't kill me make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fight for interest and forwards attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante while the anti-proletariat hold the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving, and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world. Like Gandhi, live for peace, aspire to be someone who fights for the beliefs. Like Martin Luther King, aspire to be that love, that light, like Christ, life for the moment in need. And if you believe in Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, it's up to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the tree, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world.